that when Miriam passes away, the wellspring ceases to exist. The Jews complain, and this is the new generation who are meant to go into Eretz Yisrael. And Hashem says to Moshe, Chof Hosek Zayin, V'deber Hashem Moshe Lema Kachis Hamatev Hakel Sa'ido, take your staff, assemble the Edor, Atov Aaron Ochicho. You and Aaron, your brother, Dibartim El Asela, Leineim, and you should speak to the rock before the rise, Nosan Memov, and the rock will give forth its water. But say so, Le'mayim in Asela, and you'll extract water from the rock. Vishkisa eso Edov es birom, and you provide water for the Edov, for the people, and their animals, the livestock. Okay? So over here, the Torah makes it a point. He says to Moshe and Aaron, when you extract water from the rock, you'll be able to water the people and their livestock. Rashi, take a look, Rashi and Ches. There's Biram, Mikan, Shechos HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shel Yisrael. From here we see that Hashem is concerned and takes into account the assets of the Jews. And we're talking about the water ceases to exist. They're complaining they can die of thirst. Okay, Hashem maybe should provide water only for what? Only for the people, not for the livestock. The Torah makes it a point. Not only did he provide water for the people, but even for the livestock. Why is that important for us to know? Hashem is concerned for the assets, for the belongings of the Jews. Otherwise, the animals would have died. You'd say, if water's coming out of the rock, we're told to provide water for millions of people. The livestock, once it's coming, it's coming. No, it's a different dimension of miracle. It's another miracle. And the Torah is making a point that the miracle here is a greater miracle because not only is it providing water for the people, even for the livestock. So what's the takeaway? So we'd asked the question in the past, when the Jews left Egypt and there was no water, right? If the water was bitter, then they complained there was nothing to eat, the mun, and then they complained, again, there was no water. So there Hashem says, take your staff, strike the rock, and water flowed from the rock. When the Jews left Egypt, they left with a tremendous amount of cattle and sheep, flocks. So evidently, the water was sufficient to water the cattle and the livestock, because that's what we're talking about. For 40 years, what did the animals drink? Evidently, there was enough water coming out of the wellspring, not only for the people, even for the livestock. And the Torah over there does not make it a point that the water that came out of the rock was sufficient even for the livestock. And here the Torah makes a point, not only for the people, even for the livestock. So from here, the takeaway is Hashem's concerned for our possessions. Otherwise, they all would have perished, the livestock. That takeaway should have made, that point should have been made originally. When Moshe struck the rock, not only was there enough water for the people, there was even enough for the livestock. And the takeaway is, Hashem is chos al mamon shel Yisrael. Why did we only in the 40th year is this the takeaway and not the takeaway initially when the miracle of the wellspring came about? That's the question we asked. The Shalom makes it a point over there. When we left Egypt, we were on the ascent to go to Sinai. We were going to assume another dimension of existence which we did not represent before. Atem kriyim odom, hem lo kriyim odom. We assumed the classification of Adam before the sin at that time. That the objective of the world was going to actually be actualized when we received the Torah at Sinai. Therefore, we left Sinai. In reality, we weren't worthy of redemption. But because Hashem had promised that after so many years we're going to leave and with wealth and so on and so forth, we left. It's the equivalent. It was the beginning of a new existence. It's the beginning of creation. Now, when Hashem created the world, there were all kinds of people in the world. The good people, bad people, middle of the road people. The basic amenities of existence exist for everybody. There's water, there's oxygen, there's whatever it is, basic, what you basically need to exist. When we left Egypt, being the beginning of creation, that there's water, of course there's water. Because if it's the beginning of creation, it's not because Hashem is concerned for our well-being, because existence needs water. So just as the water has to be provided for the people, it has to be provided for the livestock. It's not something specific for Klal Yisrael. This is the beginning of a new existence. Beginning of a new existence, Hashem provides everything across the board. As a result, then, there's no indication it's something specific to Klal Yisrael, because Hashem's concerned for our possessions. After 40 years, which is no longer the beginning, now it's a question, we had something, we lost it, and we need something to bring it back. You have to have a special worthiness. So the Jewish people have to exist. But what about their possessions? Now we're talking about specifically the Jewish people. We have to exist. What about the possessions? So Hashem should only provide enough water, maybe only for the people. Why does the Torah make it a point, even for the livestock? To tell us that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is concerned for us, it's not only for our existence, even for our financial situation, and therefore he provided that additional water for the livestock. That's what I explained. So I said, where do we see such a thing? We say in the second bracha of Shemon Esrei, Mechalkel Chaim b'chesed, Mechayim Mesim b'rachmim rabim. Hashem sustains life with chesed. What is chesed? Chesed is indiscriminate kindness. Existence. Mechalkel Chaim b'chesed. Hashem sustains life with chesed. You have all kinds of people in this existence. Indiscriminately, like Avram Avinu represented the pillar of loving kindness. Whoever came through his door, he hosted them magnanimously in a very broad, gracious way. That's chesed, indiscriminate. He did not differentiate. You yes, you not. Everybody was welcome. The world is b'chal k'chaim b'chesed. Now, Mechayim Mesim b'rachmim rabim. What about on the return? Once you've been here, and now you have, the question is, are you worthy of resurrection to come back into existence? So there should be a continuum and another level. What does it take to come back? Mechayim Mesim b'rachmim rabim. Rachmim is, you have to have worthiness, but it's done with rachmim. It's not precise. But what degree, what's the level of worthy of rachmim, of mercy? Rachmim rabim. To come back, it's not only rachmim, you need rachmim rabim, you need an abundance of rachmim to be able to come back. That's the concept of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chasam Ban Shel Yisrael. Initially, water was given, not only for ourselves, but we're not making a point because Hashem's concerned for our possessions. Existence needs water. It's the beginning of existence, He provides water for everyone. Worthy, not worthy. But now that you've had it and now you exist, now it no longer exists. To bring it back, it's not simple. So therefore, the only reason why Hashem brought it back for them was because Hashem, now the takeaway is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Al Mamonu Shel Yisrael, because He's concerned not only for ourselves, but even our financial situation. Therefore, He provided that additional water for the livestock. This is what I said in the past. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu not go into Eretz Yisrael? Because he was told to speak to the stone. Instead of speaking, he struck the stone. So the pasuk says, "Chof Yudeis Yom Hashem El Moshe El Aaron." Hashem said to Moshe and Aaron, "Yan Asher Hamantim Bi L'Akdisheni," because you did not believe in me to sanctify me, Leini B'nei Yisrael, because I told you to speak to the rock and not strike the rock, and you did not. Therefore, you will not bring this congregation into the land that I've given to you. Okay? I'm not going to speak now about what exactly was the sin, but who sinned over here? Moshe struck the rock. And yet Aaron is accountable for Moshe's action. So the Medrash asks, why is Aaron over here liable and culpable for what Moshe had done? How do you blame Aaron for this? But the point is, you had the ability to sanctify me, and the Midrash tells us, what would the sanctification been? The rock that is not subject to rule and punishment. Just by speaking to the rock, it does the will of Hashem. So you people, where you're subject to rule and punishment, how do you not listen to the word of Hashem? The rock listens, so that would have been the takeaway. And since Moshe Rabbeinu had struck the rock and did not speak to the rock, so that model for the takeaway didn't exist. So you had the ability to sanctify my name because the Jews would have been at a different level because this would have been the lesson. But you denied them that lesson, therefore, you're not worthy to go in. This is the posuk. So the Medrash asks, Loma nenesh Aaron. Why was Aaron punished? What did he do? What did he do wrong? So the Medrash answers, we'll see, the Moshel, the allegory is a weak allegory, we'll see. Moshel Ma'adavadome, what is it now? Balchov, Shabolito, Gorno Shalova. You have a credit, he's coming to seize the garden of the, or the granary of the borrower, of the debtor. Noto Shalov Shalcheno. He came when he collected the debt, not only did he take the granary of the debtor, but even of his neighbor. Omalo Aloves, the debtor says to the creditor, if I owe the money, my poor neighbor, what does he owe you? Why is he held accountable and subject to collection of the debt? Yeah. Hashem says, Moshe says to Hashem, I was upset, and therefore, as it says, he's Shimonu Amorim. He called them, you rebellious people, and therefore he lost it and he struck the rock. Aaron Machoto, what did Aaron do wrong? Leficho, so therefore the Torah goes out of its way to extol Aaron, take away the guilt from him to a degree. Shenemar Levi Omar, when Moshe Rabbeinu gave the bracha to Levi, he says, Tumechu rechlish chasidecho. The tumim, the perfectness, and the urecho, that's referring to the breastplate, leish chasidecho, to emphasize the point, Aaron is a chosid. Don't think Aaron did something so terrible. We'll see 1 second. Yan Hashelo amantem bi, but you didn't believe in me. So over here, the Eitz Chaim, which is the commentary in the Medrash Tanchuma, asks, well, it explains what does it mean? If that's the case, what's the culpability of Aaron? He says something beautiful. Aaron is said by Hashem, you're not going in because, you know what Aaron could have said? What did I do wrong? Aaron didn't say the word. If Hashem said he did something wrong, he remained silent. Evidently, he may not understand what he did wrong, but not to question Hashem, that itself was a special quality of Aaron. And therefore, Moshe, when he praises Aaron, the Levi Omar, Aaron was a chosid. That he did not respond, he was a chosid. But it's now bottom line. But what was his liability? Why was he held accountable? Because he should have protested. The Gemara tells us the person has the ability to intervene and to protest, and you don't, you're held accountable as the one who actually transgressed. Since Aaron should have said something to Moshe Rabbeinu that he's doing the wrong thing, he did not. That's the reason why he was held accountable. So we see the praiseworthy of Aaron. He could have said, what's my liability? Why should I be held accountable here? He remained silent. Therefore, he's ish chasidecho. He's a chosid. He accepted it. But bottom line, reality-wise, why was he held accountable? Because he should have said something. He didn't say anything. The son of Shimi Yochai, his body did not decompose. The whole long, lengthy discussed story over there. And then his wife had a dream, and she had seen in the dream that a worm had worn through his ear. So she was taken aback. She knew her husband was so holy. His body should not have been subject to the maggot or the worms. So he told her in the dream that he once had heard somebody speaking pejoratively about a Talmid Chacham, and he should have said something immediately, condemn that. And because he remained silent and his ear heard something, which he should have responded to, and he did not, therefore there was a deficiency, spiritually speaking, in that part of his body. So the worm being able to eat through his ear indicated that level of defect. The air became defective because it had listened to something which he should have responded. He should have been mocher. He should have protested. He did not. Aaron should have protested at some level. When? Maybe as he lifted the staff, maybe immediately afterwards. It shouldn't be understood or believed that this was the right thing to do. Okay?
Rabbi, if I may, Boker Tov.
Yeah, yes.
Boker Tov, Mark J. Allen. I just want to say, I also, forgive me, my voice is not really here. In Sota, I believe.
I can't hear you.
There's a Gemara, I believe, in Sota.
Speak louder. Speak louder.
A Gemara in Sota of a Yitro, I think, being one of the advisors to Paro, and
It's a
and he.
little. No,
I'm sorry.
he left.
Oh, sorry, he fled. He fled. But Eov, I think
He left
Eov
it.
didn't
Yes,
say anything, and so his silence was a test of, like, essentially not.
yes, yes. We discussed this in the past.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Three. There's a medrash, a phenomenal medrash that initially Chizkiah Melech Yehuda, he was the king of Judah. His father was an evil man, and when he became king, he gathered the Jewish people together, and there was idolatry. There was terrible things going on, and he told them, "Now that I'm the king, there's going to be a new mandate." And he took a sword and a Sefer Torah, and he said to them, "I'm giving you a choice. Either you live by the Torah, or you can be pierced by the sword." Within 2.5 years, the Gemara tells us that every woman and child was fully proficient in the laws of Tumah V'Tara, the laws of spiritual purity. In Eretz Yisrael, literally, it was a spiritual revolution. Now, so Chizkiyahu was an exceptional tzaddik. The 10 tribes already were exiled by Sancheriv, and now he's coming to destroy the last vestige of the Jewish people, which was what? Was Yerushalayim area. That's Yehuda, Binyamin, and the Beis Hamikdash. Hashem says to Gabriel, and he had come with international force, millions of troops. And Hashem says to Gabriel, who's the archangel, he's the Malach of Aish. And he says to Gabriel, sharpen your sickle, you're going to wipe out the camp of Sancheriv. And Hashem wanted initially that Chizkiyahu Melech Yehuda, the king of Judah, should be Mashiach, and this should be Sancheriv is Gog and Magog. And when Sancheriv is destroyed, the world will achieve its level of perfection. That's what Hashem wanted. That night at midnight, Gabriel went, in an instant, they were all actually incinerated. All the people, the troops they had brought, they all turned to ash. And Hashem says, okay, now we're ready for real time. Mashiach. Chizkiyahu's Mashiach. So Gemara says, Midas Din comes to Hashem and says, I don't think Chizkiyahu is worthy to be Mashiach. Why? Because after the miracle happened, Chizkiyahu HaMelech should have said Shira. He should acknowledge the great miracle to the world, and he did not. And therefore, because he didn't say Shira, he's not worthy of being Mashiach. This is the Midas Adin. Meaning, within the context of Rachmim, Chizkiyahu should have been Mashiach. But within the context of Midas Adin, which is precise evaluation, Chizkiyahu was not. And Hashem agreed, because he did not say Shira, it will not be Mashiach. Now, what was the claim over there? What's the value of saying Shira? If something of this enormous event takes place, out of the ordinary, there's an obligation to acknowledge it, articulate it, which is to present before the world Kiddush Hashem, and before Klal Yisrael what the Kiddush Hashem was. So falling short of that, within the context of Midas Adin, there's a claim. And that's why Chizkiyahu Melech Yehuda was not chosen to be Mashiach, even though personally, so we explained then, why did he not say Shira? Why not? So we'd explained then, Chizkiyahu Melech understood why. Because for him, it wasn't a great event. Why? Because we read in B'chukosai, if you're a Amelim Torah, if you toil in Torah, your enemies will fall before you, and so on and so forth is going to happen. Chizkiyahu did not participate in this battle because Chizkiyahu was preoccupied studying Torah. He had brought about this revolution. People were toiling. The Gemara says that the grapes on the vine were rotting because people did not want to take out time from their Torah study to harvest the grapes. That was the level of immersion they were. So what does the Torah say? If you're a Amelim Torah, if you toil my Torah, you're going to have abundance on every level. Your enemies are going to fall before you. So for Chizkiyahu, this is what was supposed to happen. But nevertheless, the world doesn't understand that. What it demands, you have to articulate it, and you have to extol Hashem with Shira. And because he did not, based on Midas Adin, he was not worthy of being Mashiach. Okay? Let's talk about the battle with Og and Sichon and Og. These two giants who were the protectors of Canaan. Read how Moshe Rabbeinu had killed both of them. And the Gemara Bracha speaks about it was a miracle. How they were killed. It was a miracle. And the Medrash tells us that it was more difficult to destroy Sichon and Og than to destroy Egypt, with all the cavalry and the armies and everything else. So what should have been? You hear this? Even though number-wise, Egypt was much more, these were just two giants. But in terms of what they represented in the spiritual realm, representing the negative, the evil in existence, to take them out, it was more difficult than taking out Egypt in terms of what they represent regarding evil. You know something? Moshe should have said Shira. After he destroyed Sichon and Og, Moshe should have led the Jews in Shira and song. He did not. We find he's not held accountable for it. But the Medrash says he should have. So who said Shira to acknowledge what Moshe Rabbeinu had fallen short of? So the Gemara says, the Medrash says, David HaMelech said Shira. On Shabbos, it's part of Tehillim. Hodla Hashem Kilam Chasdo. We say 26 times Kilam Chasdo on Shabbos. It's from Tehillim. And what does it say there? The Sichon Og Melech HaBoshen Kilam Chasdo. Log Melech HaBoshen. Sichon Melech HaMori Kilam Chasdo. Sichon, the king of Amori, Kilam Chasdo. Log Melech HaBoshen Kilam Chasdo. That Shira that David had said was in the place of the Shira that Moshe should have said. So because he had fallen short of Shira, that's the reason why it had to be said. It had to be acknowledged. It had to be articulated. David articulated that Shira. But by Chizkiyahu Melech Yehuda at that moment, nobody, it had to be, there we're holding at a watershed moment, the world was going to reach its level of perfection. For that acknowledgement had to be stated publicly. It was not, therefore, The Midas Hadid said, Chizkiyahu is not worthy of being Mashiach, and Sancheriv will not be the Armageddon, Gog and Magog. So we think it's not a numbers game. It's not a numbers game. It's what you represent. Sichar and Og represented something in the evil, the most negative, in the most extreme level. And even Moshe initially was concerned. We read Hashem says, Altira Moshe. What was he worried about? Who is Og? Who is Og? After Avram Avinu had heard that his nephew was taken captive by the four kings, they were the four mightiest kings of the world. They had defeated the five kings, and they took him captive to bait Avram because they believed they'd be able to kill him in battle. Who informed Avram Avinu that his nephew was taken captive? Og Melech HaBashan. Og came and told him, your nephew, and that's why Avram went to battle to save Lot. So because he had saved Lot, he merited to live hundreds of years into the future because he accommodated Avram Avinu. Because Avram had made a commitment to Lot that I'm there for you. If you ever need my intervention, I'm there. So because he had facilitated that actually guarantee that Avram had made, therefore Og merited hundreds of years into the future. Now, Avram, what was Moshe worried? He was concerned that the source of what Og had done, it wasn't fully depleted. So if the source of what he had done for Avram was not depleted, he's not going to be able to topple him. Hashem says, Altiro, Moshe, it's over. Everything, there's no trace any longer. He depleted fully. You'll be able to topple him. It's not a problem. But that was his concern. And over there, the point is made. What was Og's intent? Og's intent was, when he informed Avram Avinu, Sarah Mina was one of the most beautiful women who ever lived, that he would be killed in battle, and Og would take his wife. That's what he believed. So the whole informing to Avram was with a sinister intent. It was not because he was concerned about Avram's commitment to his nephew, or his nephew was purely personal with a sinister intent. Nevertheless, because he had done a chesed to Avram, that he was able to meet his commitment to his nephew, for that he merited endless years, hundreds of years into the future. And Avram and Moshe Rabbeinu was still concerned. Maybe there was a trace of that zchus. Hashem says you have nothing to worry about. But nevertheless, to be able to take him down, it was a ness. It was a miracle, even greater than the miracle of taking down Egypt, greater than Egypt being destroyed in the Yam Suf. Moshe didn't say Shira. David HaMelech came and had to be identified as something one of a kind, events that took place in the history of this world. And David HaMelech said 26, Hodel Hashem Kilam Chasto, and within that it says Og Melech HaBashan Kilam Chasto, Sicha Melech HaMori Ki Lilam Chasto. Kilam. He had said 26. Why do you have to say 26? Within the 26 we have Sicha Melech HaMori Ki Lilam Chasto, Og Melech HaBashan Kilam Chasto. The taking down of the giants, his chesed is forever. So just say those two. What do you have to say the other 24? The Gemara says, why did he say 26? Because from the beginning existence until Kabbalah Torah, it was 26 generations. And the world functioned on chesed. The world wasn't worthy of continuing. You see the evil, the Dor HaMabul, Dor HaFloga, the world was all a pagan world. And Klal Yisrael didn't exist yet. Why did Hashem tolerate all this and allow it to happen? Chesed. So the 26 is to correspond to all the 26 generations of chesed, that despite their unworthiness, Hashem's chesed allowed it to continue. But you understand, to appreciate what Og Melech HaBashan is, to say those two things alone, you don't have a full appreciation. You have to see the picture in its totality. When you see 26, you see Hashem's magnanimous chesed, now you understand and appreciate what Og is and what Sichon is. As Hashem provided the world, although it had no worthiness, which is something miraculous, beyond miracle, despite all the failings of the world, taking out Sichon Og, it was an impossibility. Based on surface, it was an easy one compared to Egypt. No, in terms of their representation of evil, taking them out was more difficult than Egypt. And therefore, as he sustained the world for all those generations, which was absolute chesed, identically taking them out bordered on that same absolute chesed. So therefore, it was incorporated as part of the 26. Chapter Chobs Levavos Asher B'Tochim. Aval advorim shechai v'mamin liftoch b'hem alabori yisbot lisaler. The areas of existence that a person has that faith in Hashem, trust, kolomosum shnei meaning. They include within two areas. Echad mehem divrei olam hazeh. We have to have trust in Hashem regarding the physical world. We'll explain what this means. V'Hashem divrei olam haba, and also it has relevance to the world to come. V'divrei olam hazeh chalku l'shnayim l'shnei chalakim. And even what relates to physical existence, you have to have trust in two areas. One is the world for the world, the physical world. And the physical world being a medium for the world to come. I mean, this is the playing field. And the areas of trust which has relevance to benefit this world, again, it's divided in three parts. What does it relate to? What does Hashem provide? Something which relates to our physicality, just you personally, each person individually. Hashem endows you with intelligence, with health, with various abilities. That's you personally. Hasheni tolos tarfo v'sibos hono mini kinyanov. But you know, you don't live in a vacuum. Ein kemach ein Torah. With physical beings, he has to provide a means to be able to live, our sustenance, wealth, or possessions, being able to acquire things. Hashish to'alos b'nei beisov yishto krova b'ova oivov. Something which is outside of our personal existence, our families, our social, our enemies, our friends. You have different echelons of society. That exists. Society has all kinds of levels, all kinds of classifications. So it's the person what relates to him as a human being. I mean, the Chobos Levavos speaks in one location. Do you realize if a person would not be endowed with the brain, would not have retention of memory, you know what you would be, what anybody would be? You'd be less than a vegetable. Everything we come upon, if we would not retain it, that means from moment to moment, it's like the previous moment didn't exist. How does the mind work? You're only able to understand something because you're accumulating various levels of knowledge. You speak, you have a letter, the sound of a letter, to be able to put words together. The whole thought process is based upon understanding or being exposed to information, and based on that, the brain is able to process that information. But if you don't have memory, the whole processing center has no value. She shows just on a personal level, before we even get to providing sustenance for the person, just the function of the body itself, the digestive system, how the body expels the toxins, the waste, how you're able to function, the level of exceptional gift which Hashem has endowed the human being, how thankful and how indebted we are to Hashem. If a person would only understand that, you'd never feel that what God in any way fell short of providing for you, even in your own personal existence. In addition, that you're able, he provides sustenance, he provides protection at some level. Even though it may not meet your standard, what you believe you're entitled to, it doesn't make a difference. That's already where the ego intervenes and creates a little bit of a problem over here, or a great problem. We just want to end with this piece. Avram Avinu, when he was told to leave Choron, leave your land, your birth location, and your family, and go to the land I will show you. So we'd asked the question then, I'm not challenging anybody's memory now, Jay. We'd said then that Avram Avinu, Choron, he was thrown into a kiln. He was a pariah. He was a fugitive. For 13 years, he was hiding in a cave because he was disseminating monotheism. A person's in Auschwitz, and he's told, you can be released. You have the ability to leave, abandon everything, and just get out of there. You'd run. What was Avram Avinu? What was the test? Leave your land, leave your birthplace. What are we told? Who's he leaving? His family. His own father informed on him that he destroyed the idols. That's why he was thrown into the kiln. What love will be lost? What is he leaving behind? But yet, this according to the Medrash, this is the first test. It's definitely one of the 10 tests which Avram Avinu was tested. What was the test?
Yeah.
That was the question we asked.
Right.
So we explained that a person himself, every aspect of your development is based on your environment. Where do you come from? Who are you associated with? What did you learn? Every one of us cannot be totally objective. Why? Because we're all a sum total of our experiences in life, positive, negative experiences. People we were exposed to, positive, negative, so we're a composite of all that. And then, if you put it all together, as you should, you advance. Avram Avinu believed that all that he was only because of where he was born, his community, and his family. They were all contributed to who he became. So if that's the case, his level of thankfulness and beholdeness and indebtedness to his family, so if he could in any way convert them to monotheism, rather than abandoning them, Hashem says to him, something, it's a lost cause. Pick yourself up and leave. But what about I have an indebtedness to them because I could bring him around if I would stay longer. He accepted the word of Hashem. It's hopeless. Leave. He didn't say to Hashem, give me one more chance. Didn't say that. He accepted the word of Hashem. That's it. He's out. That was the test. The test wasn't to leave because there was any love lost. It's only because he didn't question Hashem to say, maybe if you give me another moment, maybe I'll succeed. Hashem said, it's a lost cause. It's beating a dead horse. I'm out of there. So a person himself is not only a product of himself, but it's your family, your friends, your enemies. Everything contributes to your development as a human being and to meet the potential that you're meant to meet.
Rabbi, so
Hashem.